Right, so Cromwell Mk.IV tank, Airfix. Let's start the build, shall we? Now, you start off the build with the lower hull, as is pretty much standard with a lot of tank builds. So you've got your lower hull part, and then what it says to do is glue these side pieces on. I prefer to do something slightly different, and I prefer to build up with this particular tank the road wheel assemblies. So you've got a second part which is going to sandwich on like so. So just pop your glue on, and then just do that. Okay, so there's your road wheel assembly. Now you're going to put the road wheels on in sequence, and the best way to do this is chuck your return wheel on, and then you can basically push on all your road wheels like so, and they come in two halves. So you want the half which has the big collar on the back, and that's going to go on first. Okay. So just make sure that they're all located nicely, and then what you're going to do is you've got your return, you've got your drive wheel here, and that's going to go on. And I found that the best way to do this is, because you've got sprockets that need to line up with the track links, you do have to, I've taken a photograph and I'll insert it around now, but on the back of this you needed to really tidy this up so you could clear all the drive sprockets, and then just pop that on like so. Now I pop a little bit of extra glue on, and the reason for that is so that I can then marry up the splines in the wheel, the teeth in that wheel, with the track, and then if I needed to, I've got a little bit of play to wiggle it to make sure it sits properly, but that's fine. That's gone on nicely. So what I'm going to do is I'm going to glue that in place now. So push your track assembly on, and I like this one-piece track, this hard plastic one-piece track. It's so much better than the old rubber band tracks that they used to do. I don't think it'd be too much effort for Airfix to just do a small tooling for tracks, link and length tracks, for their existing vintage classics. You know, I think that would be a good investment, to be quite honest, over what they currently have. Right, then I'm going to come in and I'm going to secure the drive wheel in place, making sure to line up the teeth on the drive wheel with the tracks. I'm just going to add in a little bit of water, a little bit of glue, and then basically I'm just going to go down and push the outer wheels into position, and that's it. That's all it is. So 1, 2. And there you go. There's your road wheel assemblies done. Right, now I'm going to add those to the lower hull. So 1, and then 2, then you have these the front glasses plate and then the rear of the engine deck. So this one just goes on there like so. And then this one, making sure that you've got these two parts here, that and that, go uppermost. You should only be able to put it on one way, so you know, once you've sorted that out, it will only go on one way really. And that is essentially stages 1 to 4. So the next thing you're going to do is pop on the top of the hull, and that is going to go on like so, just there. Now like so, and I'm just going to pop something, a little bit of weight on there just to make sure it's, actually we'll swap it out for the glass bottle, shall we? Right, then we have the front armour plate where the driver sits. Now this, when you look at this, you've got a small piece here, and this needs to be uppermost on the left hand side, which means that your Beezer machine gun is going to slot in like so. then this is going to go on the front. That was actually quite a satisfying little click. Like that. Then you have part of the rear deck, rear of the engine, and that is going to just go on here at the back. Like that. Right, okay, so I'm gonna be doing things just slightly out of sequence again, and the reason I'm doing that is because these are quite large items that are going to go on to this model, and I feel that they're not going to pose too much of an issue, whereas some of the smaller, more delicate items I'd rather put on right at the end, because I don't want to be handling it too much. So we've got a couple of storage boxes that are going to go on either side of the hull top here. So one, and there's one this side. Then we have a small engine. Now this is actually sloped slightly, and that slope needs to go towards the back of the engine deck. So just make sure you got it around the right way. Like so. And then you have the engine cowling. Now this has got some tiny hinges on one side, and they need to face away from the engine deck, so they go at the back. Like that. Right then, lovelies, let's crack on and do a few more bits and pieces on our Cromwell tank. So, carrying on from just putting on the armour panels, etc., the main armour panels around the side, I'm going to just pop on the last of the larger pieces that need to go onto the hull. And then I'm going to do the turret, and then we will do the final little greeblies, like towing eyes, etc. So we've got a couple of pieces that go onto the side here, and they literally just go on. There's one on each side, so I've already done one side because you don't want to see me do two. And then that one. And what I'm going to do is I'm just going to make sure that's seated properly with the edge of the scalpel. Excuse me. And then we have the hatch here for the bow machine gun, which is this. So make sure you get the hinge, which is here, goes towards the front of the tank. Make sure you get that in the right position. And then that is going to go in just there. And again, just going to use the scalpel to make sure it's seated correctly. Right, then I'm going to come in and I'm just going to pop on a piece of rear armour for the over the track. Just going to go there, and this acts as part of the brace for the half skirts that go over the track pieces. So we have one there, and I found that the best way to do this is to add your glue, and then you have the same with the front piece. And that's your skirting done on the Cromwell. Now we're going to move on to the turret, and the first thing you're actually going to do is glue in the turret machine gun. And this is, there's a slight taper to this block, so you need to make sure you get it the right way round. And once you've got it the right way around, that will actually fit in really well and be flush. Okay, so once we've done that, something you need to be aware of is that you're fitting the gun mantlet into this front plate on the turret upside down. Okay, so just be aware that you need to make sure that you realise these pieces are the wrong way up to how they're actually going to be on the turret. Okay. So that goes in, and then there's a backing piece. Which goes on. The theory is that if you're careful, you can make it so that it pivots up and down, elevates. I'm not fussed about that. So there's the front. Now, you're then going to come in to the turret and just make sure that you get turret ring on the right way up. So the lugs and the turret ring need to be facing the bottom here. And then just pop your glue in, like so. And then that's that. Now, the instructions then move back to the armament, and you have a barrel with a two-piece muzzle brake. The easiest way to glue this together is to place your muzzle brake so that the join is uppermost, the joining surface is uppermost, a little bit of glue on there, and then you can pick it up and wiggle it into position like that. And that's how I did it, because it is very, very thin. It's the width of perhaps a leather needle. And then making sure that the holes on the muzzle brake are either side. This will then go into the gun mantlet. Okay. So the holes need to be at a 90-degree angle either side of the barrel, and then just make sure that you align this correctly. So on both the left and right axis, so that it's not skew whiff in any way, like that. Right, like that. Then we just pop it aside. Right, we're going to come back to the turret. Now, we're still working with this upside down. And we're going to pop on the armour panels. And the armour panels will, because we're working with this upside down, should only go on one way. Okay. And then all these pieces are keyed which means that they will only fit on one way. So just make sure that you're going around test fitting as you go and making sure that they are aligned top and bottom. Okay, there shouldn't be any overlap on the top surface. Like that, and then bring your gun mantlet in, and that should seat nicely and align with everything. Like so. And that is the main turret. Now you've got two options for the top hatch here, and that is either a closed hatch, or as I'm going to do, because I have actually found on eBay, which I have ordered, they haven't arrived, but I have ordered some figures, tank command figures that are made to order, 3D printed, and the seller offers them 3D printed, made to order, in the scale that you would like, and I have gone for 1/76 scale. So your hatches will then go on, and just make sure you get them aligned so that they're straight, otherwise it'll look a bit odd. Like so. Right, said Fred, there are these tiny little items left. We've got some lamps, we've got some lamp guards, protectors that need to go on on the front. So let's finish off the turret first. So there's 2 items that's going to go on the turret. There's a search lamp on the side, and then another piece which goes on the turret just behind the commander's hatch. So and then the lamp just goes in there. So make sure you've trimmed it up well, because there's no tab. It's just literally the bracket that the lamp is on fits into the tiny hole that is provided. And then just make sure it is straight and level. So that is the turret completed. Then we are going to go on to the hull. So you've got these tiny little D-rings, absolutely tiny, that locate. There's 6 that locate in 6 positions across the hull. So there's one that's going to go on the back, and it's actually easier to add your glue to the D-ring and then set it into position. And then just drop a little bit more on, and the same these ones. So I've just done the one on the rear, and that has just pinged. God knows. Oh no, I was lucky. It's there on the table mat. Right, let's try again, shall we? So you got 2 that are going to be located on the lower hull. So 1, 2 there, and then there's 2. So I've already put one on, and then the other one's just going to go the opposite side. And that is going to go opposite side on the front of the upper hull there. It's made a slight mess of that. But we'll be able to clean that up before priming. Then on the rear is a towing hitch. Now this towing hitch has a very thin latch handle which needs to go uppermost, and it goes in the centre of the tank here, and So this one you can get away with dropping the glue in and then making sure you've got it the right way up. Goes in at the back, just there. So that's the rear complete. We now have just a few final things to put on the front. We have a lamp and then 2 lamp guards and something which just goes over that. I don't know if it's a fume extractor or what, which will just go over here. Just this is kind of like a half circle, so make sure you get it facing the right way round. So the flat edge faces forwards. And that goes on like so, and then you have the lamp which will go on the front, and it's basically mirrored on the other side. It's a slightly different lamp. This one I believe is configured for night driving. And that's going to go in the centre. And then just make sure it is aligned. And then your final couple of bits are going to be these lamp guards, which are just, they're probably oversized. They could probably benefit from being made out of a wire, a thinner wire, but I'm only doing this as a kit build out the box. So one, and then the last one. And 2. And that's the tank complete. Now, there are options for this. You've seen me do one of them, which is the open hatch. The other one is, so, as I was saying, we have some deep wading gear and we have a rhino attachment on the front for ploughing through bocage hedgerows. So your deep wading gear essentially is just going to consist of a cover going over the part of the engine deck, You have a hatch cover for one of the hatches on the turret, and then you have this rhino which locates onto the front. Now this, from what I can tell, just slots over where you would put the eyes, the towing eyes, on the front of the hull. Okay, now it will slot over the, if you've put your D-rings on, your towing D-rings onto your towing eyes, then it will slot over both of those and go into position. And then if I use this other one, so that would go into position there, so you should be able to see that. And then your wading gear would literally go over part of the engine air intake, I believe, there, and then this goes over that hatch. So that's basically how that would look with deep wading gear on. So there you go, that's the build. So I do have two of these, just because. And yeah, I mean, I'm not going to use the deep wading gear, but these are useful for those of us that do the wargaming and stuff like that. Those are going to go into my terrain bits box, because when we come to do destroyed buildings, these will act as sections of trunking for air conditioning and stuff like that. So I'll be using those for that purpose. But there's your two Cromwell tanks, and hopefully you'll join me in the next video. All right, take care. Bye bye.